Hello everyone, welcome to Soul for Sunday. I just finished my Sunday stroll out here in the woods. It's kind of overcast days, so if you can't see me as well, this is all the natural light that I have available. Okay, so today we're going to have a conversation about dreams and interpreting dreams, and just a couple topics regarding things that you see in a dream, right? And this is for those of you who are interested in learning more about what your dreams actually mean, or whether or not you are an intuitive and your dreams actually come to reality. So you want to understand what's happening in your dreams, in your dream state. So let's talk about things that I find common, and I think I may have spoken about this a little bit in one of my other videos, but I want to give a little bit more detail about what it means when you see a loved one who is deceased in your dream. And I said this before, that yes, when you see a loved one, it is a meaning. Sometimes it means you miss them. Sometimes it means that person's anniversary of their death or their birth is coming up. And sometimes it's a specific message. So your loved one can be sending you a message. And I say your loved one, but this is the spirit of the person, right? It's not as if when you die you're in that physical form anymore. But the spirit of that person could be warning you about something. And sometimes it could even be guilt. You feel guilty about something with that person, and the dream is to ease the guilt. Or sometimes it can actually be to convict you, right? So all those different things are possibilities when you dream about a loved person. But let's get into a little bit more detail about what it means when you dream about a loved person. Specifically, what it means when you dream about someone who was deceased and someone who is living at the same time. That becomes the interesting point, because I have dreams, of course, you know, guys, I'm an intuitive, call me different things or whatever, but my dreams come to pass, they become reality. And I'll give you an example. Last week, I had a dream, and in my dream, my mother told me that the closets at this house were too small for her clothes. And so we don't live in the same city, so I just was like, oh, okay, my mother thinks that wherever this house is that she was looking at, the closets were too small. Now, before I dreamt that, my mother had told me that she was going to go look at this house, right? So I ended up where my mother lives because of some other events, and I actually ended up going with her to look at the house. And when we got to the house, guess what? The closets were too small for my mother's things, right? So that is an example of a dream that comes to pass. Now, I didn't think much of a dream at the time because we don't live in the same city, and I did not expect to be in the city with her when she was going to be looking at that house, but I was. So that's a message for me and for her. There were no deceased people in this dream. This is just her telling me something, right? So if you're having dreams like that, again, you guys know I created the books, and I created the books for you to record the dreams so that you will know, one, you will understand your gift. You will understand if the dreams are significant in the fact that your gift is predicting things. Or two, you will understand warnings that come, because sometimes you get warnings in dreams, and you would know that. And three, you also understand the time frame of things, because I remember years ago I had a dream that somebody broke in our house, and then somebody actually did. I was a little girl, and that, you know, as a little girl, I don't know how long that took, but I've heard it was fairly quickly that I had the dream and it happened. So I know that I can have certain dreams and I can expect them to come to pass in, like, you know, a matter of days. And some other ones I know is going to take a little bit longer, right? And that's why you record the dreams. So let's get into what happens when you dream about a deceased person and a person who is living. What does that mean in your life? And this has happened to me a lot. I've dreamt about people. So let's just say you dream about your deceased grandmother. We're going to use your grandmother to make it easy, whether your grandmother's actually deceased or not. We're just using this for an example, so don't get all upset if your grandmother is alive. But let's just say you dream about your deceased grandmother, and I'm going to use both my grandmothers are deceased, so I can use either one of them. So let's just say I dreamt about my deceased grandmother, and in the dream, my deceased grandmother was talking to me about someone who was alive, and that person was actually with my grandmother in the dream, right? And in the case in my family, because of the things that my grandmother did on one side of my family, in that house we still have. Often when I have dreams associated with her, I'll have dreams that the dream takes place at that particular house, which always gives me a significant meaning. And when I see people with my grandmother, I immediately think that two things are going to happen. One, that person is going to join my grandmother, meaning that that person is going to pass soon. That's the first thing I think. Or two, there's something wrong health-wise with that person. Even if they're not going to pass, I know that they're sick. Because when I dream about my grandmother at that house, before my grandmother passed, I had a dream that she was going to pass, and I didn't tell her. And then I remember one day I went to see her, and she's like, "How long have you known?" Because she knew I, was gifted and stuff, and she knew and stuff, and I didn't even say anything. She asked me, and she knew, right? She knew that I knew, right? And so I told her, and I cried and whatever. So when I have those dreams, I immediately think that something's going on with the person who is living, and that person is sick in some way, or they're getting ready to pass. And most of the time, the first thing I do is, pray for them. And then oftentimes I reach out to them to see if they're okay, right? Sometimes you can dream about a loved one, two individuals, and it can be the one that's deceased and the one that's living. And it could be a matter of a big change about to happen. For instance, your loved one who is deceased could tell you that that person's going to get a house, that person's going to get a car. So you can have a dream where the loved one who is deceased is saying, "Oh, Dr. Freisen is moving into a new house." And if I dreamt that my dead grandmother told me Dr. Freisen was moving into a new house, I would think, "Oh, hey, Dr. Freisen is getting a new house." So you have to understand the relationship. Now, that's if you are an actual intuitive person. If you have the psychic gifts, those clear gifts, those types of gifts, those dreams have meanings. So I write that dream down. I record that dream down. And then let's just say you are not intuitive, or you don't know that you're intuitive, and you have this dream. And you're like, "Well, what does that mean to me? My dreams don't come to pass." Well, is the person sick that you dreamt about? Is something going on in their life? Are they stressed? Reach out to them, talk to them, find out, are they having difficulties? Because sometimes that's just it. The person's having difficulties in their life and they need to talk to you, but maybe they don't want to talk because they're afraid to even talk about whatever they're going through. You don't have to be an intuitive on that level in order to have the dreams have significance. Now, another thing about dreaming about dead people, those who've passed, is sometimes they can tell you when someone is going to have a baby, right? They could tell you when someone's pregnant. It can come in the form of that energy, right? Your grandmother, your grandfather, your aunt, your sister, your cousin, your mom, somebody could tell you, "Oh, so-and-so is pregnant." So you write that down, and if the person is pregnant, you understand that this particular energy occurs in your dreams to give you messages, right? This is the Gabriel of your life, right? Gabriel was the messenger, and this is the Gabriel. So you have to know who the Gabriel is in your life in order to understand when it's a true message. For instance, let's go back to dreaming about people who've transitioned. Let's say you dream about your grandmother who has transitioned, and when you dream about your grandmother, it's a message. They're always telling you something. They're always speaking to you. And when you wake up, you remember the message. And the message always has significance in your life. That means your grandmother is the Gabriel in your life. That your grandmother is the messenger. So the Gabriel energy, which is the messenger energy, is appearing as your grandmother, right? So it could not be your grandmother. It could be your grandfather. It can be your uncle, your sister, your cousin. It could be any person. It could even be a person who's not, in essence, your relative that you know. They could be someone that was your mentor, right, that appeared to you. And I say that because, in essence, we have lived multiple times. And in multiple times of living, we have different incarnations of people and family, right? So there's people who are tied to you, and they might be tied to you not necessarily by the bloodline of this life. So that's a side note. But when you have the dream and the person who comes to you is presenting with a message that always has a significance, recognize them as the Gabriel in your life. And then you put that person in the category. So I would say my grandmother, I would say, oh, that's the messenger in my life. She's delivering a message to me. That energy is delivering a message to me, right? Because we're all energy at the end of the day. That's what I would take from that. I would not always take it as someone is definitely going to die. I could take it as they're delivering a message that this person is in distress. This person needs assistance. This person needs something. Now, there are other times when you can have a dream about a deceased person, and it's simply love. You could be the person who are in distress, and the deceased person could be bringing you love, could be bringing you peace, could be bringing you release. They could be telling you that whatever you're going through is going to get better, right? So just think of me. I have an uncle who I was extremely fond of. I loved him so much. When I dream of him, when I wake up, I'm often smiling. So it brings me peace, it brings me joy, it brings me happiness. And when I dream of him, I know that things are going to go in a better direction in my life. They're going to shift. And that's if it's something I was concerned about, right? I'm like, I know when I dream about him, whatever it is going to get better. So then I know that the energy that comes with him is a love type of energy, right? That brings me security whenever I dream about him. Okay, so then I put him in that category. If I see him, and I've never dreamt about him in a negative, bad way. It's never been he was in trouble or he was in distress. It was always of him and I having a conversation where I tell him I love him, he tells me he loves me, those types of things, which brings me joy, which brings me happiness, which brings me peace. So you can have people like that in your life that when you dream about them, you can recognize that that message is completely for you, not for someone else. That is a message that whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, is going to get better. You're going to be able to overcome that situation. It's going to turn around for you. If you record these things and then later on you see your situation get better, you would know that, okay, that person is the victory, the victorious energy, the love energy, this thing will pass energy, right? And then when you recognize what these people's role is in your life in a dream state, when you have a dream related to those individuals, you'll pay more attention to them. And this is not the same as if you dream about a person when they first transition. Now, I've dreamt about people when they first transition, and it was always been a message dream. When people first transition, literally, one of my sisters and I had a dream about my aunt when she transitioned. We both, the same night, had a dream about her. Almost similar dreams, right? So that was, in essence, her ability to come to us one last time to deliver a message before she went to the next one. And normally that happens with me with people who are close to me, and they transition. Within a few days of them transitioning, I normally have a dream where they deliver a message to me. It's rare that I don't, but most of the time I do. And sometimes I close myself off because I don't want to hear from people. But so a lot of times when you dream about a person right after they transition, it's a message for you. Every once in a while it's a message for someone else, but most of the time that's a direct message, and that's not a somebody else is going to go. That is sometimes a message of, you know, everything's all right, or things will get better, I'm going to be okay, or I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to, you know, be a certain type of person. And I've had people tell me stuff about the afterlife and when they've come to me. But you can record these things. And now, mind you guys, I created a book so that you guys can actually write it down, because writing it down is different from typing it on your phone. And we've had that conversation before. There's a thing about bringing things from the spiritual down into the physical. Some people lose their gifts in a sense when they just take to just typing it on a keypad. It's a different energy exchange. Okay, let's just put that out there. It's a very different energy exchange. So even if you don't get my book, you need to get a piece of paper and write it down, right? It's a different energy exchange, a different message that comes through. And I also suggest that when you're writing and recording, don't be listening to something else. Don't be doing something else. Just be in the moment, the energy of gleaning what you can glean from the actual dream. Okay? So those are the main things I wanted to say about dreaming about a person who is deceased and what it means for you at this particular time in your life. Does it mean that there's a ghost in your house? No, not necessarily. It doesn't mean there's a ghost in your house. If you're not feeling things when you're alert, that doesn't mean there's a ghost, right? Now, if you're dreaming that a deceased person is attacking you, that is a different story. And that is something we have to have a conversation on a whole different level, because that could be an energy that is working against you, and those we tend to call demonic energies, right? That could be an energy that is trying to do you harm in the dream world and bring you harm into the physical world. That stress that you're going under in the dream world, it definitely can impact you when you wake up, the waking state, right? So that's very different. And if you're dreaming about a person that harmed you when they were living, and they have now transitioned, and they're constantly coming back to you in the dream state, you have to reevaluate your tie to them. Are you holding that person in your life? Because you can trap spirits. That's a whole nother thing, right, that you're able to do. And if you're holding them in your life, what are you holding yourself back from? So have you released that person? Have you let it go? And releasing the person doesn't mean you have to be, oh, I forgive you, you were such a great person. No, you have to let the energy of what happened go, so that that particular spirit isn't constantly coming back to you. I've had people say, oh, I'm dreaming about so-and-so, and they were so cruel, and they're coming to me asking me for forgiveness. Well, that's because when people transition, there's different places they go to. And there's not hell in the sense of what most people have been taught, but there are purgatory places, right? And some people might be in that purgatory place. And if they're in that purgatory place, reliving some things that they've done, in essence, that they know they should not have done, that may be why they're coming to you, because you are part of their torment, their torture. Now, some people might be like, yeah, that's great, I'm so happy they're being tormented and tortured. understand torture is a two-way street. They're being tortured and you're being tortured as well. Okay, so we don't want to be dreaming about them all the time, because that means you're holding up things in your life. You want to do the work to break the cord, to do the disconnect. Now, recently I had a conversation with someone because they wanted to know if I was able to break things and shift things. Of course, I walk in the 5 elements. You know, that's part of what I do. But I don't interfere with things that you can do, right? There's some things that you can do, and if you haven't tried to do things yourself, why do you go to anybody else? You should try first to do the things that you can do yourself, and then go to someone else if you are unsuccessful. Okay, now that's it. So I hope that at the point when you actually see this video, watch this video, it will make sense to you. My book is available on my website, www.tsfcenter.com or www.drfryson.com. It's also available on Amazon. If you go look up my name, Stephanie Fryson, Fryson, my Between Worlds book will come up. The book and the companion journal will come up on Amazon. I do have physical copies, so you can order them through my website. Okay. If you want to get the book, and there's a digital copy available as well, then that way you can download the digital copy and print out the pages yourself, right? I also have in the book like tips about what different things mean for you and repeating numbers and stuff like that. If you are not tracking what's going on in your dream world, it's no wonder why you have confusion as what's going on in your physical world. Okay? You need to understand that dream world, especially if you have a very active dream life. You need to understand it. And if nothing else, if you want anything improved in your life, start with understanding the messages that you're being given on that level, which we call it the subconscious, because we say that's when you're under, right, your sleep. But I really call it, like to think it truly is your higher consciousness, because it tells you things that you are unaware of every day, but yet you're always aware of it. It's like it's always there. It's giving you information, it's giving you guidance, giving you direction. Your intuition is your most important sense, and it is guiding you each and every day. And these dreams are guiding you if you pay attention to them. All right, so that's it on this Soulful Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and move on with the rest of my day. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Be well.